Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive trillion-dollar macroeconomic shift that is quite literally hiding in plain sight. You see, when we started connecting the data between the gold market, the new Bitcoin reserve, and the U.S. national debt, a really fascinating picture started to emerge. We're going to follow verified data straight from official government documents, Federal Reserve research, and major financial institutions to figure out exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and most importantly, what it means for your money. So let's dive right in. Okay, think about this exact number for a second, $42.22. It's a number the US government would probably prefer you didn't think about too carefully. Why? Because it's the official statutory price per troy ounce that the US Treasury uses to record its gold holdings. Now get this, that number was set by Congress all the way back in 1973. To put that into perspective, 1973 was the exact same year a McDonald's hamburger cost just 55 cents. And astoundingly, that government gold price has never been updated since. Now hold that $42 price in your head, because the contrast here is absolutely staggering. While the government's official books say $42, the actual 2026 market price of gold recently smashed past $4,499 per ounce. That is a mind-blowing discrepancy between the statutory price on paper and the real-world value of one of humanity's oldest assets. So let's just do the math real quick. The U.S. government holds roughly 261 million troy ounces of gold. If you use that totally outdated $42 benchmark, the government values its gold stash at about $11 billion. But at the real market price, that exact same gold is worth over $1.17 trillion. We are talking about a difference of over $1 trillion. This isn't just some minor accounting error, folks. It's a deliberate choice that conveniently keeps $1 trillion of value right off the balance sheet. So you might be wondering, why does this matter right now? Well, the motive becomes incredibly clear when you take a look at the government's current liabilities. The U.S. national debt recently hit an eye-watering $38.9 trillion. Because of rising interest rates and compounding debt, in April 2026 alone, the U.S. paid a record $112 billion in monthly interest. Just let that sink in for a second. $112 billion paid in a single month just to service existing debt. That's more than the entire annual economic output of many countries. So the crucial point we're looking at is this. The government is facing absolutely crushing interest payments, but they're also sitting on this artificially undervalued asset. It raises the ultimate trillion-dollar question. How do you create $1 trillion in government assets instantly, without raising taxes, without cutting spending, and without printing new money in the traditional sense? The answer? You legally unlock the massive hidden asset you already own. Section 1. The Fort Knox Audit and Revaluation. You know, political figures have recently sparked a lot of calls for a Fort Knox audit. And honestly, an audit is the absolute prerequisite to any accounting revaluation, because you obviously can't revalue an asset you haven't verified yet. Here's exactly how a revaluation would play out practically. Step 1. The Treasury reissues its gold certificates at the new current market price instead of that old 1973 price. Step 2. The Federal Reserve exchanges them. And Step 3. Boom. The Treasury General Account magically expands by hundreds of billions of dollars. They literally create a massive book gain instantly. Now, if you think this is purely theoretical, check this out. When we dug into the Treasury's internal statements, we found this specific quote from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Over the next 12 months, we will monetize the asset side of the balance sheet and extract value from them. Okay, yes, he did later walk this statement back and said gold revaluation wasn't what he meant. But let's be real, the phrase monetize the asset side of the balance sheet isn't exactly a casual remark. It definitely shows that internal conversations about global best practices are verified and happening behind closed doors. Section 2. Why gold prices are surging. Stepping back from the government's internal calculus for a second, the broader gold market has been on an absolute tear. Gold hit an all-time high of $5,589 in early 2026. Plus, the annual average price increased a staggering 44% over 2024. So what's driving this surge? Well, there are 4 key macroeconomic drivers. First, record central bank buying. Nations like China, India, and Russia are scooping up gold at the fastest pace we've seen in decades to reduce their reliance on the dollar. Second, severe geopolitical instability, especially with the U.S.-Iran war disrupting global energy. Third, institutional investors are getting really concerned about that $38.9 trillion U.S. debt. And fourth, economic uncertainty driven by global trade wars and tariffs. And the biggest financial institutions in the world are entirely validating this trajectory. JP Morgan projects gold could reach $6,300 by the end of 2026. UBS and Deutsche Bank are right there with them, forecasting over $6,000. These aren't fringe predictions, right? These are credentialed global banking giants all pointing in the exact same direction. Section 3, the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. All right, here's where the narrative takes a really fascinating twist. Back in March 2025, an executive order suddenly established Bitcoin as a strategic national reserve asset. So right alongside gold, the United States government formally positioned itself within the crypto space. But when we look at the verified data, the US didn't actually go out and buy these on the open market. They currently hold roughly 207,000 Bitcoins that came entirely from criminal and civil asset forfeitures. So at this moment, there's no commitment to actively buy Bitcoin at scale using your taxpayer dollars. Any active purchasing still requires congressional authorization through legislation like the Bitcoin Act, which is advancing right now. Section 4. Hedging the US dollar. So why on earth is the government hoarding both gold and Bitcoin? It kind of feels like a total contradiction, doesn't it? On one hand, you have a physical, tangible asset that's been recognized as money for 5,000 years. And on the other hand, you have a highly volatile digital asset that's only been around for 15 years. Why simultaneously hold the absolute oldest and the absolute newest monetary assets? Well, as it turns out, they serve the exact same purpose. They are both a strategic hedge. A strategic hedge is basically an asset held completely outside the traditional dollar-denominated financial system. Remember how we said global central banks are buying gold to reduce their dollar dependence? Well, by building both a gold reserve and a digital Bitcoin reserve, the US is essentially creating a dual engine. It's an insurance policy designed to protect the country if the dollar's status as the global reserve currency ever gets seriously challenged. Section 5. What it means for you. Now, all this macroeconomic theory is super fascinating, but how do you actually navigate it for your own personal finances? If you're considering adding gold to your portfolio, you've got a few distinct options. You have gold ETFs, which are really accessible and trade just like stocks in a regular brokerage account. You have physical gold bars and coins, awesome because they're tangible, but they do require secure storage. You could look at gold mining stocks, which offer higher potential leverage but definitely carry higher risk. And finally, there's a gold IRA, which provides great tax advantages for retirement, but does come with higher fees and a bit more complexity. To bring this all together into something actionable, here is your 4-step game plan. Step 1, understand that historically, gold acts as a stabilizer for a portfolio during times of inflation and volatility. Usually, a 5 to 10% allocation is what's commonly suggested. Step 2, acknowledge that while Bitcoin has this massive new government endorsement, which essentially removes the risk of an outright ban, it still has severe historical drawdown risks and is highly speculative. Step 3, watch that Fort Knox audit story very closely, because an official reevaluation would cause massive market volatility. And step 4, honestly, this is the most crucial one, prioritize your financial fundamentals first. Stuff like emergency funds, hitting your 401k match, and eliminating high-interest debt absolutely must come before jumping into advanced asset allocation. All right, we've covered a ton today. We looked at that absurd $42 book price of gold, the staggering $112 billion monthly interest problem, and the wild twist of the strategic Bitcoin reserve. These are verified, massive shifts in how the most powerful government in the world views money. So now that you understand the mechanics behind it all, I want to leave you with a question to really think about. Are you already holding any gold or Bitcoin to hedge your own portfolio, or is this entirely new territory for you? Think about it and consider how this trillion-dollar hidden shift might impact your own financial future. Thanks for joining us.